All right, NASA is now coordinating with top government agencies to look into the cases of the 11 missing or dead American scientists connected to nuclear or rocket technology.
And this mystery is now being treated as a potential national security threat.
It is. Aisha Hassan joins us live from the White House with the latest. Good morning, Aisha.
Hey, good morning to you guys. We're told that this is an investigation that spans across multiple different parts of the government, different departments, and Congress is now getting involved too. The leadership in the House Oversight Committee, the Republicans there, just sent a letter to the FBI, the Department of Energy, NASA, Department of War, all asking for briefings on these 11 scientists that either disappeared or wound up dead. All of them have some connection to nuclear or rocket technology. Here's House Oversight Chairman James Comer.
It does appear that there's a high possibility that something sinister is taking place here. We've asked all those agencies, the Department of Energy, NASA, the Department of War, to all share information with us so that we can see if we can put it together and find any missing links to try to solve what's going on here, because it's very unlikely that this is a coincidence.
So the NASA spokesperson, though, is pushing back on this potentially being a national security threat. She writes, NASA is coordinating and cooperating with the relevant agencies in relation to the missing scientists. At this time, nothing related to NASA indicates a national security threat. The agency is committed to transparency and will provide more information as able. Now, one of the missing is 68-year-old retired General William Neal McCaslin with ties to the UFO community. This one's raising a lot of eyebrows. It happened very recently. He used to work on a classified space program at a research lab at an Air Force base in Ohio. He disappeared not too long ago, in February of this year. In a 911 call, his wife said that she had some indication that perhaps he did not want to be found. So that has set off a lot of speculation across the UFO community. What happened to him? A lot of interesting details about him. He left his phone behind. He went for a hike and then just disappeared. So a lot of questions about this.
C4, your move. Bah, you sunk my battleship. What the heck is that? Darth Chewie.
B-17.
The only show with Darth Chewie as a cold, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to have a cold takes day today with the UFO subject, which has certainly made a considerable amount of news lately, mainly because, well, obviously they're about to do something. What do I mean by they? Like, obviously the powers in charge are going to pull some type of UFO stunt. It's going to happen. I don't know what's going on exactly. That's why we're going to ask questions. That's why we've been asking questions. And it's something that I think is critical for us to understand, like how the news environments are manipulated, how the government lies to us, how we are constantly the subjects of nonstop psyops, and also who are the truth seekers. Critical to learn these things, and it's important for us to platform the truth seekers, the people that actually want the answers to these questions. Today is Tuesday, April 21st, 2026. The congressman who has blown the whistle on the missing scientists and also has given extreme descriptions of the UFOs that he has seen himself in these settings and from whistleblowers, he will be live on the show. His name is Eric Burlison. Also, a favorite, Chip Roy, will be live on the program to comment on Kamala returning with a brand new accent as the 2028 races heat right up. They're trying to rig a race in Virginia. We're going to talk with Chip Roy about that. Not just a race, they're trying to rig the entire Virginia congressional map. It's one of the most evil things you've ever seen. It's a grotesque abuse and grab of power. Be very, very cautious about the people that you're listening to today. Kamala Harris would not have been a better president. Democrats will not be better for the country. In one fell swoop, Democrats promise to show us exactly how they are going to destroy the country forever and bring it directly over the brink for power. Destroy your lives, your children's lives. They brag about it. Open the floodgates, open the borders, 60 million new naturalized paperwork Americans, and it'll be over. And so, once again, it is critical to assess the landscape of who you are listening to, who's actually seeking truth, and who has their head, who has their head locked in straight. No, Kamala Harris would not be better right now. It wouldn't be better. Yes, there are some massive, massive victories that Donald Trump has had, and there's probably some things that you very much disagree with Donald Trump on, and that's just the way it goes with virtually everyone. And the goal of our movement should be to put our shoulder to the wheel and to the wall, from the window to the wall, as they would say, as the philosophers say, and enact change within our movement to work for the results that we want. And that's what we'll do on this program. A government that doesn't lie to you, a government that is transparent with its owners, which are the people, is the government that we seek. My name is Benny Johnson, and this is The Benny Show. Blackout Coffee is a partner of this program. It exists right here in my mug every single day. Blackout Coffee keeps us caffeinated, ready to rock and ready to go. Feeling very zen this morning because I've been looking through all these UFO files and all of the descriptors, and I've spent the last hour sort of pouring through what has been revealed right now in Congress. I'm like, I don't understand any of it. I don't understand anything. This is why we bring the experts on to ask the questions. Blackout Coffee, of course, gives us the energy to keep fighting and keep going. Was out at the park with my kids this morning, actually. We homeschool our kids. So I was like, he's going to get his Blackout Coffee and walk to the tree down the street, right? And we'll go tree climbing. Life takes energy. Make sure that you are supporting the people who support your country when you buy your caffeine. That would be Blackout Coffee. They love this place. They're brewed right here in the state of Florida. Perfect for work, travel, and keeping in a go bag. Go to blackoutcoffee.com/Benny. Use the code Benny for 20% off your first order. That's blackoutcoffee.com/Benny. Support American jobs. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, shocking news story. Some of it, I think, obviously built for headlines, but they're stitching together sort of a pattern, and pattern recognition is what we do on this program. We don't claim we didn't go to the Ivy Leagues. We don't claim to be the smartest guy in the room. We don't have any credentials to hang on the back wall here. On the back wall here, we hang the electoral map, some AR-15s, and an American flag. And that's where I come from, community college. But we can do pattern recognition. And I guess if there's one skill that we have on this program, it's this. And, hot damn, there is a pattern here. A string of missing or dead scientists, too coincidental. Major concern, Congressman says, 11th mystery disappearance emerges. That Congressman is Eric Burlison. We've been asking this for quite a while. What the hell's going on? This was a clip from last year that was played at a congressional testimony, a hearing that was held, and that was initiated by Eric Burlison, who's joining our program in 1 minute. And there's no explanation for this, frankly. It's a UFO that gets hit with a Hellfire missile from a Reaper drone. It splits up into a couple different pieces, particles, and then it recoagulates. There's nothing that we know on this planet that can do something like this. So what's going on? I'm not exactly sure. Many people have a lot of different explanations for this. It just sure seems like something's going to happen soon. Why? Well, out of nowhere, Barack Obama says aliens are real. Then Donald Trump says he's sharing classified information. Then Donald Trump orders the declassification of all UFO files. Then Trump's kids say that Trump has a UFO speech prepared that he's ready to give with the release of the UFOs. Now we're just getting trickle, drip, drip out of this White House. Here's White House time and space. I still can't believe it's real. White House time and space here, ladies and gentlemen. The White House says that they can manipulate time and space. This is the science director of the White House. does it mean exactly? Like, what is that? This time travel? Leave distance annihilated is actually what the exact quote is, and that we can, our technology allows us to manipulate time and space, leaves distance annihilated. Okay. Well, it sure sounds like what a lot of these UFOs look like when you play the videos. What we hear from pilots, because we live right next to an Air Force base here, and we live right next to CENTCOM here in Tampa. Yeah, my neighbors are pilots, and they describe these things. They are like upstanding individuals. They're sober as a nun, and they describe all throughout the world that UFOs approach their planes, their fighter jets, and that they're seeing them constantly. These are very sober-minded, clear-eyed, clear-minded individuals. I don't know what it is. We've been asking a lot, and well, I guess the one that I'm going to go with here is the JD Vance. So we have two different takes on this. So we have the JD Vance take, which is that these UFOs are spiritual in nature and that they come from a understanding of the Old Testament and the New Testament, demonic entities that can fly and manipulate time. Remember when Satan is tempting Christ, he sort of almost teleports Christ up to the top of mountains and the top of the temple. This is the great temptation. Whatever, however you wish to interpret that in the Bible, I just want you to know I read the Bible and I just believe the words that are said in the Bible. That's it. I'm a very simple Christian. Not too much higher level processing. I just believe the words of the Bible. So that's what it says, and that's what I believe. You see, obviously, Satan is called the Prince of the Air. What's that about? I don't know. It seems like there's some type of potential for this to be spiritual in nature, and that's what JD Vance told us when we asked. Here we go.
I release all the UFO files.
We're working on it. It's funny. When I came in, I was obsessed with the UFO files. And then you start getting really busy worrying about the economy and national security and things like that. But I've still got 3 more years as vice president. I will get to the bottom of the UFO files.
Okay. Have you peeked? Have you done a peek?
Have I what?
Have you done a peek? Have you
So I actually haven't. I have
full
not.
Independence Day.
I have not been able to spend enough time on this to really understand it. Yeah. But I am going to. Trust me. I'm obsessed with this. I've already had a couple of times where I'm like, all right, we're going to Area 51. We're going out to New Mexico. We're going to sort of get to the bottom of this. And then the timing of the trip just didn't work out. But trust me, anybody who's curious about this, I'm more curious than anybody. And I've got 3 years of the very, very tippy top of the classification. I'm going to get to the bottom of it.
Okay. So you haven't been to Area 51 yet?
Not yet.
Some people say they keep the UFOs in Ohio. They might,
Hangar 18, Hangar 18, right?
I've
heard that as well. But I don't know. I haven't looked into it yet.
Okay. All right. Well, we're waiting for it. We saw aliens.gov. We saw aliens.gov.
I don't think they're aliens. I think they're demons anyway, but that's a longer discussion.
Well, I can't let you go without a follow-up on that. Because Barack Obama is on this podcast and he goes, yeah, aliens are real, but here's where they're not. And,
I did not.
And so Obama says, yes, aliens are, he gets asked,
not the right way to
are aliens real? He said, oh, yeah. And then he goes, but they're not at Area 51.
And where are they, bro?
Well, that's what he says. Okay. Right. That's a great question. Trump had to go save him, and he said he's going to declassify. Okay. So you think they're demons?
Well, look, I think that celestial beings who fly around, who do weird things to people, I think that the desire to describe everything celestial, everything as otherworldly, to describe it as aliens, I mean, every great world religion, including Christianity, the one that I believe in, has understood that there are weird things out there, and there are things that are very difficult to explain. And I naturally go, when I hear about sort of extra natural phenomenon, that's where I go to, is the Christian understanding that, there's a lot of good out there, but there's also some evil out there. And I think that one of the devil's great tricks is to convince people he never existed.
I think that's a great answer. I don't know if it's the right answer. There has to be some explanation for it. I can tell you my worldview is that God created the heavens and the earth, and that God created everything, and that God also created sea creatures that would seem quite alien to us, sea creatures that you can go pull up out of the deep, and we find a new one every single day. that we didn't know existed. And they sure look more alien than anything in a sci-fi film. And that exists on our planet with us and has for a very long time, for thousands of years. So why couldn't God create other entities, other places? I don't know. I'm not sure. But I do know this, that like given the sequencing of these revelations, that it seems like they're preparing for something. It seems like they're preparing to do something, right? So President Trump on the missing scientists. Trump says he's going to investigate the scientists that are missing, and he says that this is a real problem. President Trump saying that this may be a massive national security issue, and that he is really worried about it, frankly. He should be. The scientists who are missing come from, the most sensitive security backgrounds and experimental weapons backgrounds. And Donald Trump says, this bothers me. Here we go.
There are these 10 missing scientists with access to classified stuff, nuclear material, aerospace. They've all gone missing or turned up dead in the last couple months. Based on what you've been briefed, what do you think is happening here? And do you think that this is connected or totally random?
Well, I hope it's random, but we're going to know in the next week and a half. I just left the meeting on that subject, so pretty serious stuff. But we're going to be hopefully, I don't know, coincidence, whatever you want to call it. But some of them were very important people, and we're going to look at it over the next short period.
I feel like people should be concerned. Is this on purpose? Is this something that's happening because they don't want the individuals who actually know the truth about this subject in order to lie about the subject? This is what they did with the JFK files, right? JFK files, there's like tons of mysterious deaths. The Clinton body count is built sort of on the structure that dead men tell no tales. And if you don't have eyewitnesses to things that are alive, then you can get away with lies. This is why Epstein is dead, I fundamentally believe. Epstein is dead because Epstein could tell the truth about a lot of people. A reminder that Bill Gates is going to be deposed, I think, today. Catherine Rumler was deposed by the House yesterday. What good will it do? Well, it won't do any good because Jeffrey Epstein is dead. Well, at least that's what they say. Some people think he's living in Tel Aviv. I don't know. But they say that he's dead. So where's the lawsuit? Where's the criminal charges? He's gone. So it all kind of disappears. At least many people wish that it did. I didn't know what to say when I heard Matt Gaetz telling us on the show about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, that in fact there are alien breeding programs in our country. I mean, this seems to be in direct conflict with what J.D. Vance thinks. Who's right? I'm not sure. But here's what Matt Gaetz told us on the program a few weeks ago, just so that you know that we have kind of a wide range of opinions here on what's truly happening. Can we just go back to square one, which is non-human biologics, interracial alien mating? What the F is going on? Look, wait a second. You had whistleblowers tell you this kind of thing? Can you please unpack that?
Yeah, I had a guy who was uniformed. He was a senior enlisted with the United States Army. Came into my office in Crestview, Florida, in a non-classified setting. I had members of my staff there, and what they explained is that the military ran a very secret program where aliens that were living were in forced breeding programs with humans that had been abducted from war zones and from even the caravans of migrants. Now, again, I didn't verify this, but what the whistleblower was telling me is that there were like between 6 and 12 locations around the country where this happened. And what he wanted was a group, members of Congress, to all show up at the same time at all of these different locations so that any of those activities could not be moved. And of course, it's a physical impossibility.
Members of Congress tell us that they have actually shown up at some of these UFO bases and they've been blocked. These kind of things were told to me in confidence over dinner, but that they went to these bases in Ohio, they went to these bases in Maryland, and they went to these bases and were turned away. And when they finally pressed, very, very grumpy Air Force generals handed them like empty files, effectively, of what's going on there, saying it's all classified. UFO-linked scientist who warned my life is in danger before she was found dead at 34 becomes 11th mysterious case. And you can see the interactive map here and diagram of everyone who is been missing, some of them with really creepy stories. And I just want to bring your attention to two. William McCausland and Stephen Garcia. Both of them are missing. Both of them were in New Mexico. And both of them, you can scroll down, please. And both of them went missing the exact same way. They went missing by walking off into the desert without their cell phone or any electronic devices. And you keep going. Keep going. Thank you. ALX, will you send me a diagram, please? No. Maybe it's not displaying. There we go. Yeah. That's the internet for you. Stephen Garcia and William McCausland disappeared the exact same way. As you can see Garcia right there in the center, missing, and McCausland down there. Their connection of overseeing very secure and sensitive government research through top secret labs. Again, their disappearances, very creepy. Both of them just grabbed a firearm and went out into the desert. What is that? Look, it's truly like, is there any explanation for that? They left their phones at home. They didn't take a water bottle. They didn't take any tracking device. They didn't take an AirTag. They didn't take their Apple Watch. They just took a gun and went off into the desert. And then nobody heard from them again. And this is what has so many people extremely concerned right now, that there's something much darker going on. And I wish we had this level of suspicion, again, at the height of Jeffrey Epstein's death, murder. If we did, then perhaps more people could have asked correct questions about what was going on there, but we didn't. And unfortunately, now we are left to wonder what's going on here, because it all seems just too connected. President Trump this weekend was giving a speech at a Turning Point event. We'll be speaking at a Turning Point event tomorrow. And he said, well, I've looked at the UFO files. Tim Burchett says that he spent 15 minutes on the phone with President Trump talking through these files and what he's seen with him, and that there's some really disturbing stuff in there. Here's what the president said.
Remember, I recently directed the Secretary of War. How good is Pete Hegseth doing, by the way? To begin releasing government files relating to UFOs and unexplained aerial phenomena. And I figured this was a good crowd, because I know you people, you're really into that. I don't know if I am, but so I'm pleased to report today, I thought I'd save it for this crowd, because you're a little bit out there, a little bit, that this process is well underway, and we found many very interesting documents, I must say, and the first releases will begin very, very soon, so you can go out and see if that phenomena is correct. You'll figure it out. Let me know. But we've had a lot of questions. It's something that really captivates the mind. There's no question about it. With your support.
Well, it captivates the mind because we know we're being lied to, the same way that Epstein has captivated so many minds, is that we just know that there's some level of deception going on. Nobody's really being fully honest with us. That's, of course, the point of the federal government, is to be honest with its shareholders, its owners, which would be in our government, the way it is constituted, us, the people. So why are they withholding these things from us and what's going on with these scientists. And we're adults, we can take it. What is going on with these UFOs? Why so many disappearances and deaths? And why does footage like this even exist? There's no explanation for it. There's one congressman who is on the hunt, and he has been banging the drum on this for a very long time. He's an unsung hero of this subject. His name is Eric Burlison. He's from the state of Missouri. And I think that probably nobody is more read in than Eric Burlison, who's able to talk to the public about what's happening here. He joins us live now. It's our honor to have him. Congressman, thank you for joining the program. It's an honor to have you.
It's an honor to be on, Benny.
So I want to just begin. Obviously, there's some pattern recognition issues that are going on here with the missing scientists. And it's something that has captured the attention of the country. The president's talked about it. But you've gone a step further, and you have made the charges that some of the scientists are being taken out by space-aged weapons, potentially directed energy weapons, and that they're victims of a larger plot to silence the American people. The floor is yours. Could you just expound on your thoughts on Amy Eskridge and others?
Yeah. So I'm not certain about the others, but I know that Amy Eskridge was clearly distraught. She was telegraphing to friends and family that she was being harassed. She engaged the services of a former British intelligence officer who was investigating the harassment or the strange things that were happening to her. They were able to determine that she was the victim of what others call the Havana syndrome, which we now know is the result of a directed energy type weapon using microwave energy. This is well documented. I think 60 Minutes was one of the first to document what was going on to multiple people in our intelligence community. So I personally know several others who are still dealing with the unfortunate lasting effects of Havana syndrome. So that's not a controversial or speculative or wild idea. It's certainly been documented, well documented. But I'm not certain if the other scientists experienced Havana syndrome, but Amy, it was. I think that they had significant evidence that she was a victim of that.
Tim Burchett was on our program before the State of the Union. It seems like an eternity ago, the way that time moves and the news cycle moves these days. And he just dropped a little nugget, and he just said, listen, you got to be following up on some of these missing scientists because I know them, and something nefarious is happening here. Something he thinks criminal is happening here. We didn't think much about it at the time because it's, well, whatever. It's Tim Burchett, right? And who knows what he's going to say, and we love him for that exact reason. But hot dog, dadgum, was he right about this? What do you think is going on here, Congressman?
Well, I mean, it's really mysterious when some of the people don't just walk out of their home without their cell phones, without their wallets, without their keys. That doesn't happen. I can't tell you the last time I was anywhere without my phone. I mean, usually if I go to swimming, I have the phone right nearby. I mean, it's just something people just don't do today. But yet these scientists who are all working in aerospace in some way, whether it was materials research or propulsion or plasma research, they were all working doing advanced research for the Air Force. And when you have within a period of just a few months, you have multiple people walk out their front door and never return without their cell phones, without anything. That just doesn't happen. So I think it's worth looking into. And then plus, Benny, if you think about it, it's not crazy to suspect that an adversary who wants to do damage to the United States would go after our scientists. We know this has happened in history. We know that China, for example, has an operation that they call Operation Foxtrot, or Fox Hunt, sorry, where they're intimidating, they're trying to bring back or repatriate Chinese scientists. I'm told that there's another program that they have that's called Operation Skynet, not to be confused with the Terminator, but it is an operation to interfere or try to infiltrate our scientific community. So it's not out of the realm of possibilities that an adversary may be the culprit here.
Of course. I mean, why wouldn't you want to infiltrate American scientific communities when we're clearly demonstrating everything from ghost murmur, right, to the discombobulator? President Trump is regularly bragging that we have weapons that are 20 years ahead of everybody else. And that's what we can see on the battlefield. What they actually have in development is 20 years ahead of where we are today, right? And that's what they currently have. Do you think that some of that technology is alien? That's what's been suggested on the program before.
I've heard that claim, and I'm certainly open to that as a possibility, and it's worth investigating. That's what I've been doing on the UAP task force, or the disclosure task force. But I'm not going to jump to that conclusion until I have solid evidence. So sure. I've not seen anything that definitively indicates that we're reverse engineering crashed spacecraft.
But presumably these scientists, if there is a connection, there's some type of orchestrated criminal activity here that is manipulating these scientists who've worked on all these programs, all these skunk work programs, or whatever you want to call them, but extremely the highest possible levels of classification. Something is taking these extremely bright individuals and causing them to walk off into the desert with a firearm and never be seen again. What is that?
I really don't know what's going on. That's why I think that we've got to get our FBI involved and investigate this. Hopefully they're able to look at the communications that these people were receiving or sending. Hopefully they're able to see if there's any trace, whether satellite imagery that they can track down and figure out where exactly did these people go.
Yes. What is that? There seem to be so many unexplained actions these days. Everything from Matthew Crooks. I'm still not sure we got the full story on that in Butler. And people just behaving in a manner that doesn't comport or make any sense.
Yeah.
And
I mean, this government tends to keep so many secrets. I mean, we still don't even know what the motives were of the gunman in Nevada, or in Las Vegas, right? For that concert shooting. Matthew Crooks. It's insane that we don't have information about that. So I think at the end of the day, this is really mysterious, and I'm really glad that the press and people are talking about the 11 missing scientists. What's not been mentioned are people from the military intelligence community that have also either gone missing or committed suicide suspiciously. So my office started this whole investigation with an individual named Matthew Sullivan, who was a colleague of David Grush, Jake Barber, and was deep in the UFO, UAP community, somebody that was expected to come forward to talk to members of Congress, and within 2 weeks of that appointed meeting, committed suicide. Very suspicious. So we sent a letter to the FBI. The Office of Inspector General had already deemed it a credible issue and worth investigating. So we sent a letter to the FBI. Hopefully they are looking into that as well. And then I've heard Lou Elizondo brought one up to me just recently. Another colleague that he said that mysteriously died that we need to be looking into as well. So those names keep stacking up as well.
So, given the fact that you have a clearance and you have the ability to go into a SCIF or the capacity to go and sit in classified settings and get briefed on what the federal government has as far as UFO evidence. You made a claim this weekend that I thought was remarkable, a craft too big to move. Can you unpack that for us?
I was told that in a SCIF and also outside of one, that there is a craft at a location in a foreign country that is too big to move. They built a building around it. It's in a foreign country, and it is a U.S. installation. I can't say anything more than that.
It's on like a U.S. military base installation.
I can't really say anything more than that. What I can say is that it would be quite a trip to get there. I'm going to continue to do research. I've been granted permission by the White House to go to some of these locations in the United States. I think that's low-hanging fruit to visit some of these sites. And frankly, when you look back in history, this is something that was not given, this access was not given to Barry Goldwater. It wasn't given to Harry Reid. I feel very honored that the White House has trusted me to be able to go visit some of these sites, and already visited one military base that's been part of the discussion for the lore for the UFO phenomenon for quite some time. And I already checked that location off. We're going to continue to try to get to other locations as well. I know everyone talks about Area 51, but there's probably nothing there anymore. But it's probably on the list at least to go to try to check that box.
That's interesting. So the White House is going to allow you to go and give you the top secret clearance to go and do congressional oversight and investigation.
They've given me the ability to do that. That was, and I'm very thankful for the White House. This president is a disclosure president. I mean, people complained about the Epstein files, and I wish that was handled a little bit better. But at the end of the day, those were all released. The JFK files, it took decades and decades, but Trump, with his executive order, Tulsi Gabbard's team went in and demanded the documents from the CIA. It really, I don't know if you looked into those JFK documents that have been recently released, but it definitely changes the narrative about what happened at the assassination. So I think that President Trump has successfully gotten a lot of information released. I think that what I think about the intelligence community is clear, is that you're going to have to fight them for it. You're going to have to wrestle them to the ground in order to get this information out of them. So they will take you on a dog and pony show, but I can still learn things by being there and figure out, try to read between the lines, if you will. But the way that we're going to get the truth is if President Trump steps forward and demands it from the CIA, from the Department of Energy, and all of these FFRDCs, which are called federally funded research development centers, companies like MITRE, RAND Corporation, Aerospace Corporation. These are quasi-government, entities that contract with our military contractors. And somewhere buried between that and our military contractors or their subcontractors, I think is where the truth lies.
Have you briefed the president on this?
I've not, no. I know others have.
Yes. So, I mean, he does seem to be talking about it a little bit more and have a little bit more of a curiosity, yet the April 14th deadline came and went for the UFO disclosure. What's going on with that, Congressman?
Well, that's kind of a misnomer. So my office led a letter about a month before the Anna Polina Luna letter came out. In fact, she co-signed on our letter that asked for the release, or for us to be able to at least see these videos. And we didn't hear anything back. I have heard that they were collecting those videos, that they are putting together a briefing, but we haven't had it yet. Anna then came out with a public version of that letter. And in her letter, she set a date. They didn't even acknowledge receipt of her letter until that date came. So that date was not something that was set in stone by the White House or by anybody. It was simply a date that, an expected date that Anna Polina Luna had put into her letter.
So you've been in these classified settings, you've been in these briefings, and you've materially represented what could potentially be in these videos. Glowing orbs like balls of plasma, extremely advanced technology, that we are not alone in the universe, top secret, a metal silver orb, immediate acceleration that defies normal propulsion or physics that we know of. Have you witnessed this? You've seen this in videos?
I have, yeah. I've seen multiple videos, some that are clear as day, that it's a metallic type orb with a very smooth surface, looks like a huge beach ball that's made of aluminum, and is somehow able to take flight. I have no idea. I mean, it doesn't have any kind of wings. It doesn't appear to be a balloon. It's not a balloon. The way in which it maneuvers is clearly not a balloon. So I've seen those videos. I've seen those objects from a distance in other videos where they seem to be flying at incredible speeds. And we've also heard a lot of reports of these items that are showing up in our airspace, so over military airspace, which is extremely disturbing. I've also seen videos of things that I could only describe as like a ball of plasma or something that looks, it's just wild looking. Just almost looks like some kind of glowing nebulous object. And sometimes they move, and sometimes they just sit still, or sometimes they will appear and completely disappear. So there's something weird. I don't know what it is, and I'm not going to jump. A lot of people jump to the conclusion and say, "Oh, it's alien, it's from another planet." I don't know. We don't know. It could be some of our military contractors that are experimenting on some form of advanced technology that's not mainstream. It could be an adversary that's working on it, and I'm not going to completely eliminate the fact that maybe it is something that's not from Earth, but that's something that I think that we have to be looking into this, because this is a national security issue for sure.
Could you describe for us, perhaps, like, what is the most disturbing thing that you've seen in these classified settings?
I would say the recent one that I received that was described to me, that it was a military base. They had a lot of eyes on these objects. They almost had planned to try to at least capture one, or try to get at least gain more information. And these things were very evasive. There were so many people that saw them, and there were multiple objects all at once. So for me, walking away from that and understanding that our military doesn't have any idea what's going on. Mm-hmm. Our intelligence community has no idea what these things are. That was disturbing to me. I was kind of hoping that they would at least have some indication or some insight as to what these are, but they don't. Or at least they claim they don't.
What about those strange drones over New Jersey that we were told to just forget about? Don't worry about it. People called them drones. They were vehicles in the sky that lit up and that hovered, that were huge. We had the mayors and the elected representatives from New Jersey on the program every single day. They were describing them from their rooftops. They brought their own homemade videos of these things. These things were real as a heart attack. But we got no explanation ever about what they were. Oh, we were studying the weather. Shut up. All right. Like, what was that?
Yeah, you still don't know what that was. I mean, that we should be requesting that. That's something to bring up for the Disclosure Task Force. We should be having a hearing on that topic and see what they're willing to provide. What I have heard, just from talking with people that were part of that investigation, is that was a mixed bag. Some of that was conventional. Most of that was conventional drones that were flying illegally in that airspace. Some of it was our own security drones, and some of it was Chinese. So we do know that China has a significant presence here in the United States. They do a lot of espionage, and they do some that's very, very high level. And then what they will do is they'll find some sucker to just go send with a cheap drone, knowing that person will probably get arrested and caught. But then they have some of their more advanced operations that are trying to be more covert.
Okay, really quickly here, and I appreciate it. I know we're up against a hard out. J.D. Vance tells us that these are spiritual entities. He believes they might be demons. What are your thoughts on that?
That's an intriguing topic. As a Christian, it really is extremely intriguing to me. I can't definitively say what these things are, but I'm not gonna. I think that it's very possible that he's right. It's caused me to reread the Old Testament and really kind of try to figure out how does today's understanding of aliens from another planet, how does that fit in with the narrative in the Bible, the things that we've been reading. And I think there is certainly a way in which you can explain what we're seeing today. are the same things that people saw in Old Testament back in history. There's a great book by a gentleman named Timothy Alberino where he lays it all out. And I've read that book. It's called Birthright. And it kind of, honestly, reading that gives you a more cosmic understanding of the creation story and God's role in it and mankind's role in the entire universe. I mean, it's a vast universe. We've all known that. And, in Timothy Alberino's book, Birthright, he kind of alludes that when God talks about the different types of angels, or the Bible says you have seraphim, cherubim, and then you have the watchers, right? Well, seraphim is a description of a lizard type creature, like a snake or a serpent. And that could be, I'm just speculating, like, what if that is what people today call the reptilian type of aliens that are often reported as being seen, right? You have other species that are called cherubim. That could be the Greys. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know. But it is kind of an interesting, his book, and a lot of podcasts are talking about this. And it's an interesting rabbit hole, but I'm trying to be based in facts and stick to that. And so all of that is speculation. I'm not saying that that's what I believe, but it is certainly interesting to explore.
And what would be the third type of angel?
Oh, the Watchers, which apparently came down and mated with women in Genesis 6. So that means that it had to at least be somewhat physically capable of crossbreeding with humans, right? And created this offspring called the Nephilim. One could speculate that those are the Nordic aliens that are often described, that are kind of a tall, human-like looking race. So I don't know. It's very interesting to speculate on, but I'm not saying that this is what I believe in. I'm just saying I'm also not dismissing this as a possibility.
Well, Congressman, this brings us perfectly to our last question, which was perhaps the most outlandish and also the most viral commentary that we've done on this show with former Representative Matt Gaetz. I know that you know him. And he claimed that there was breeding programs between humans and aliens, and he was briefed on this. That's going on. And, well, you just talked about the Nephilim and that potential breeding program from way back in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I'm a simple Christian. I read my Bible. I believe the words that are in the Bible. And I'm no theologian, so I just try my level-headed best to just believe the Bible. So I believe that that's true, right? And I believe that that's happened. What do you say about Matt Gaetz and his claim?
I've heard some of those claims as well. I haven't been able to prove that exists, but I certainly have spoken with people who claim that is part of the program, that there is that there's a crossbreeding program that's occurring, that we have. And if you want to go even further down the rabbit hole, there's the psionic, or people that are able to apparently communicate with these things with their minds. All of that, I have a hard time believing. I'm just trying to get to the nuts and bolts of do we have a physical body of an alien? Do we have a physical spacecraft? And that's what I'm going to try to focus on first. Mm-hmm. And then be willing to explore wherever that might take us.
And then on to the alien breeding programs.
Right.
Yeah, I am not trying to make fun of it. It's at some point you just have to roll the punches and just ask, right, are these people credible? Do you think that the person who told you that, so you've heard that same thing, were they credible? Somebody tell you that was credible?
So generally when I'm talking to people about this, and everyone that's spoken to me about it does not have firsthand encounters with these programs. They have been told this, so they're relaying something that has been told to them. So basically we're playing the telephone game, which is why everybody I talk to, I think, is in their own right being as honest as they can be. I don't think people approach members of Congress directly to try to lie. That puts you in some pretty hot water, particularly if you're under oath or in a skiff. And so because of that, I think that what people are saying they believe is true, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's true.
We appreciate your candor and your keeping your head about you, and just your explanation of what you've seen and why we need to see more. Right? Burchett says if the world has seen what I've seen, then it would upset the whole damn apple cart. And so,
well, I'm not willing to jump to a complete ontological shock, but I think that what's clear is that there are things that defy what we would call conventional physics that are flying over our military bases, and that's very disturbing to me.
Yes. Well, please come back and brief us when you've gone to these military bases, and we very much look forward to that. Thank you so much for your time, Congressman, and
Thank
also
you.
for
I'm a big fan, Benny. I watch your videos. You do a great job, so it's an honor to be on.
Well, I have a feeling this one's going to be a banger. I have a feeling the internet's going to love your commentary today. And if you wouldn't mind, if I could I've never done this live on the show, but if you wouldn't mind, could we pre-book you for when you come back from Area 51? Could we do that right now? I'm sure your scheduler perhaps will watch this, and I know I know Kara will get that done. And so if we could get that exclusive, that'd be great. If you could bring us along, that'd be great.
You're not the first person to ask that. In fact, Leader Scalise, when he heard that was true, he said, "Can I go with you?"
Right, of course.
You're going to have to ask the president. So.
JD Vance told me he has tippy top security clearance, and so he's going to go. So you might as well just hitch a ride with JD.
That's what I'm trying to do. That he's got the plane. I have to fly commercial. So.
That's right. We're just humble Midwesterners, right? Exactly. I'm from Iowa. You're from Missouri. We're just humble Midwesterners. What are planes even? Thank you. Thank you very much, Congressman. Godspeed, everybody. Follow Eric Burlison here. He has 60,000 subscribers on X. Make sure you're fighting with the people who are seeking the truth. The truth shall set you free. Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you.
We apologize. We apologize in advance for just going long on that interview. We have we have the incredible Chip Roy, who has been nothing but an absolute patience of Job, as we would say. If we were going to talk Old Testament, let's talk patience of Job. Ladies and gentlemen, Armora is a partner of the show. Armora makes sure that you are armed with the nutrients that you need. It comes directly from colostrum. This is all natural nutrients. 400 bioactive elements to fortify your gut health and fuel fitness recovery and help strengthen your immune system, supporting your best performance every single day. We've worked out a special deal for you. Receive 30% off your subscription order. Go to armora.com/Benny and enter the code Benny to get 30% off your first subscription order. That's armra.com/Benny today. Now, today, Chip Roy, right now. Let's go. This is going to be the alien show because I want to talk about illegal aliens with you, Congressman. So there's the space aliens and there's illegal aliens, and both of them are very bad for America, I think.
Well, that was a fascinating conversation with my good friend Eric Burlison. He's a great patriot and one of my great friends here on Capitol Hill. Fellow member of the Freedom Caucus, but he's diving into a lot of stuff that I haven't been able to do, right? Because he's been able to see things that I haven't been able to see. I've talked to him and to Ana Paulina Luna, look forward to getting more information out of it. I mean, look, I'm a believer very much in it's a Jeffersonian quote: "Seek truth wherever it may lead." And that's the only way we can make good decisions in a Republican form of government like we have, and we need to do it. So God bless him for doing it.
I wasn't planning on going here, but if you don't mind, what's your take on this? I never regret asking. We've heard such a myriad of answers, but what's your take on this? I don't know if you've ever been read in on this. You do have a security clearance, so perhaps maybe you've had access to some interesting videos or files, but why not? What's your take, Congressman?
Yeah, I've got no insight at all. I've not been given any access or not seen anything, certainly nothing like those guys. And I haven't, look, up here we have to divide and conquer. And when we've got various people, I trust Eric, I trust Ana to go seek the truth. So I'm waiting for them to come back and report back. I spent a whole lot of my time focused on the topic we're about to talk about, on the border, on immigration and the March of Islam in our country. And all of those things are kind of full-time jobs. We kind of divide and conquer. But look, I'm with Eric, and I think when you guys had an exchange about from a spiritual basis, look, I look at the Bible, I read the Bible, I know it to be the inherent, truthful word of God, and it lays out our path to salvation. And I got to be honest, I don't actually, and maybe people will laugh at this, I don't actually worry about the questions about life on other planets, or people that have come here, or I mean people like entities, whatever, who have come here. Maybe it's happened, maybe it hasn't. I don't worry about it. I do want us to be truthful. I do want us to know the facts. I want us to make good decisions as a people and to know what's going on. We owe that to ourselves and society. But I don't worry about it. God is bigger than all of that. God is good. People always ask me about somebody's faith, and well, you think that guy's a Christian? And I'll say, I don't know. I'm not I don't judge someone's soul. You can get observations of how someone acts and whether they're professing the gospel and whether they're living a life and walking with Christ and falling and get up, and you can make you can observe. But I'm not going to judge someone's soul. To me, you leave that to God. I just think the gospel lays out the truth. We should follow it. And as leaders of a country, we should seek truth, whether it's questions like we're about to talk about on the border, whether there's alien life. Let's go find out.
Every single time they send a submersible down into the ocean, they find some new creature that looks far more alien than anything in a sci-fi film, than any rubber prop that they could come up in Hollywood. And those things have been living with us for thousands of years, Chip, right? God made them, like, he puts them at the bottom of the ocean. They're truly, they truly look alien, properly look alien. And they've been here on the same planet, as us for a very long time. So
the unexplored depths of the ocean is actually one of the things we talk about very little, and it's pretty extraordinary that on our Earth, and it's not that big of an Earth. You think about it, right? I mean, I think I've put almost 40,000 miles on a pickup truck over the last year campaigning across Texas. Well, that would lap around the Earth almost twice, right? The Earth is just not that big in the grand scheme of things, and yet there are parts of the depths of the Pacific Ocean that humanity's never seen, and we increasingly find some of that. So look, we should explore this. Look, this is why I'm a fan of what the president's doing, what we've let out in Artemis. I'm a believer in exploration. You want to talk about a good use of taxpayer money? I always laugh at that. It's like, well, why are you using that money for that? Well, I don't know. It's a lot better than the $39 trillion of debt piled on the back of socialism and expanded tyrannical government that's not doing anything for anybody except for making people's lives worse at the end of the day. Whereas when you explore and you reach for the stars and you expand our horizons, you make us a profoundly better place. I mean, I'm a big defender of it. Now, I love the private sector influence, Elon, what he's doing in space, but we should reach for the stars and reach to the depths of the ocean. It's good for humanity to do that.
It's something that you can only do, frankly, if you are able to keep control of your own country and able to direct the country in a way that actually looks up to the stars and not looks at migrant camps, right, that are eating cats and dogs in the middle of Ohio. And so this is, you can choose one. And sadly, for the last 60, 70 years, America has chose the migrant camp route. And now we're at the tipping point. Democrats are promising to straight up open the borders once again, to naturalize 100 million new paperwork Americans if they get power and control. And what's strange about that is that it would actually be illegal. And we looked up the Chapter 3 of the immigration law here. Sorry, Chapter 2, grounds for revocation of naturalization. And I want to bring this back up to our audience simply to say, this is the current law on the book, that if you're found to have affiliated with the Communist Party, that you are inadmissible in our country, and also you should be denaturalized and deported. That's current immigration law. Right. We have a communist in charge of, a proud communist in charge of our biggest capitalist city. You have an act now that you've proposed to perhaps reinforce this law. It's called the Mandami Act. Can you describe it for us, please?
Yeah, I'm glad you started with that. And in fact, if you saw my eyes glancing down, it's because I was looking at the existing law. And I would note that a Supreme Court opinion in 1952 upheld that law. And, there's a lot of noise out there on the internet right now saying, well, Chip Roy is putting forward unconstitutional restrictions on free speech. Hold on a second. We have existing law upheld by the court saying that we can, of course, as a society, as a nation, as a sovereign nation, say that when we allow people to come to the United States per our rules and our laws, that we can make decisions about whether those individuals are going to be acting in opposition to our nation, right? So we adopted laws saying that if you're from a totalitarian regime or an active member of the Communist Party and so forth, that we can reject you, or that we can, in fact, once we determine that, even when you come here, we can remove you or denaturalize you. So from my standpoint, we've made it a little too difficult to remove and denaturalize people that have been flooding into our country, both legally and illegally, both. And I think we need to have greater tools as a nation, as a sovereign nation, with a binding set of values and principles and faiths, to say, wait a second, if people are coming here with a direct purpose of undermining our civilization, we should remove them. Whether we figure that out before they come and reject them, whether we figure that out after they've come and we remove them as they're sitting here on a visa or otherwise visiting, or whether they've been naturalized because they came here, they didn't tell us the truth, or we then later learned that they're affiliated with the Communist Party, totalitarian, or I want to argue advocating socialist policies or Islamist policies that are in direct opposition to our way of life. I believe we ought to have the tools and be able to use the judgment to remove those people. And you know what? We can debate it. We can amend it. If people want to tweak the definitions that we put forward. Everybody acts like you put a bill out that, okay, that's the end of it. I'm putting out a bill as a starting place to say, these are the things that I don't really want imported into my nation and then made citizens of our nation. That's all I'm saying. That's literally the simplest statement that I'm making. And a whole lot of my colleagues agree with that. So that's it. And by the way, on the Islamist point, I think we need to be very clear. I mean, I introduced legislation last year to vet people for Sharia law. I've introduced legislation to pause immigration. I've introduced legislation to deal with CARE as a terrorist entity and take their tax status away. And now this legislation is designed very specifically to deal with people who are coming here, do not share our values, want to undermine our country. And then I believe we ought to be able to remove them and or denaturalize them.
Can you talk about the Islamist threat and why is Sharia law so antithetical to America? I mean, so we put up the current immigration law. The reason why you don't want a communist here, the reason why it is technically illegal to allow any communists to come to America, is because that is antithetical to our Constitution, to our way of life, to the laws that govern us. It's incompatible, right? Do you believe that Sharia law is the same?
I do. And I've said to you, I think, on this show that the last conversation I had with Charlie Kirk, was about this issue, and particularly his statement, very emphatic, that Islam is in fact incompatible with Western civilization. I agree with him. I was thanking him for the speech he gave in London, and he was thanking me for the speech I gave on the House floor of the United States House of Representatives, and on this topic. And I would pose a question. Okay, let's just take a step back. Would TSA, which we're talking about right now, not being funded properly, we're having to backdoor fund it because the Democrats won't fund DHS because of ICE and Border Patrol. This is all related, by the way. Would TSA be necessary but for Islam? Would we have, my dad, when he used to fly, I remember as a child flying, we just went to the airport and walked on a plane.
That's right.
We didn't go through security. Well, all right, now we have security. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't people of other faiths, people who profess to be Christians who go do horrific acts. You know, I don't know what Timothy McVeigh's religion was when he killed 168 people 21 years or 31 years ago in Oklahoma City. But what I would tell you is the top 20 terrorist threats around the world are all Islamic. And we've got a culture and people who are carrying out a mission, a politically ideological mission, to come in their own words, according to the Muslim Brotherhood, wage jihad against the West. And we've imported 5 million people from countries that are majority Muslim, with people who profess a connection to the religion of Islam, of whom there are vast numbers, if not the vast majority, who would agree with the principles of the Muslim Brotherhood in waging jihad against the West and carrying forth the advancement of Islam. I think that is an affront to our way of life. And then Sharia, which is central to the faith, runs counter to our values in Western civilization, to equal justice under the law, to the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, to the laws of the United States and the laws of Texas, which I live in and represent. And so I believe those things are inconsistent. I believe that Western values have made this world a much better place. I believe that to the extent we were pushing Western values around the world was better. I think if you look at the photographs of young women in 1979 in Iran, that their lives were immeasurably better than what we've seen over the last 50 years since. I think when you look at those women holding up, there's two women riding in a car dressed in Western attire, holding a picture up of the Ayatollah in 1979. It's like, well, do you know what's coming? It wasn't going to be good. And this is something I think we got to recognize. You can't marry off an 8-year-old girl. You can't just unilaterally decide as a man, yeah, I'm divorcing my wife, and then basically setting up a deal where she gets married to someone else. You can't have honor killings. You can't, all of these things are in direct contradiction to the West. You can have your religious viewpoints. You can decide that under the church and Islam, in a mosque, I should say, that we're going to have rules about how we'll recognize a divorce. That's fine. In the Catholic Church, they got to go through annulment. I get that. But our civil laws are what carry the day. And if you're in the United Kingdom and you have 85 courts carrying out Sharia law alongside civilian courts, you know there's a problem. There's 15 major cities in the United Kingdom run by Muslims or have mayors that are Muslims. You have enormous expansion there of Sharia law in contradiction to the law, and it's coming here if we don't stop it.
I bet that's the first time that I've heard that. So they have 85 different Sharia courts in the UK?
Yeah, and they're running, in concert or parallel alongside the civilian courts, and they're actually required, I think, under the UK law to make those interface, and that to me is a direct contradiction and undermine. It's an anathema to Western law.
Can you unpack this? Because I saw it yesterday. ALX, would you mind grabbing the new layout for a specific school? I think it was in Minneapolis that had now prayer rooms, is Islamic prayer rooms facing Mecca. And so they're building these prayer rooms in these public schools in Minneapolis. And I want to make sure that I get that right. So let's just, I'm paraphrasing what's going on right now, but my production team will grab it. Can you talk me through something that I think is absolutely fundamental to understand, which is that the left isn't against religion. Here you go. Here's the plans, literally, for the school and the prayer room in the public school in Minneapolis. They're having to add Muslim prayer rooms. They're not for the separation of church and state at all. They're not against religion at all. They're against Christ. They're against Christian religion. They would never do this in a public school for a Christian to have a prayer room for Christians to pray when we wish, but they're doing it for Islam, and they're doing it in far left-wing Minneapolis because they actually like the fusion of Islam with the state, because Islam it's more of a political movement than it is a religion. Can you talk me through that? Are we putting the pieces together right there?
There's so much to unpack there, and I'm happy to go into it as far or as little as you want. Let's back up for a second, right? We as a nation, I think, have to a fault. We have embraced a flawed myth, or a myth, it's not flawed, a flawed reasoning that is a myth of this notion of separation of church and state, because Thomas Jefferson, and look, I'm a University of Virginia guy, I love Jefferson, love the Declaration, brilliance. But Jefferson wrote that in, as you know, a letter to the Danbury Baptists, right? It was not a part of our founding documentation. And in fact, if you look at the founding documentation, the recognition of faith in the Almighty is littered throughout it. And we were, in fact, by any measure, a Christian nation when we were founded. We wisely wanted there to be no force of religion upon you, which, of course, had been coming from the Anglican Church and the Church of England. And so I think that was a very good direction. We would all recognize under the First Amendment. But we've allowed ourselves to destroy our Christian society because we took a wrong-headed interpretation of the founders and said, we're going to divorce our faith from our education of our children and how we develop and build our communities. Now, if you said a secular approach to education is the end-all be-all, I disagree. Then, okay, then at least to your point, well, then you got to be consistent about it, right? You got to say there will be nothing. It will be neutral. It will be completely secular. And I think we went the wrong way. So we've moved, to your point, we've rejected Christ. We've moved away from Christian principles and teachings. We haven't built our society educating our youth to believe in Christ as my children are taught in the classical Christian school they go to. And I think we should build up, raise up all of our children that way. But we've done that. And now we're going to have public schools that are going to have prayer rooms. Now, here's where it gets complicated. Mississippi has done this. Texas has done this, where we have legislatures pass laws saying that schools must have prayer time. Now, that's done in generally good faith by Christians who are saying they want the 10 Commandments on the walls, they want prayer rooms. But guess what? When you draft these that way, what are you going to get? Are you going to get deep Christian theology in schools? Or are you going to open the door for people who are going to militantly, through a political ideology, be pushing Islam into schools where they have prayer rooms where they point to Mecca and they're 5 times a day putting prayer mats down and praying? That's what's happening. It's happening in Mississippi. It's happening in Texas. It's happening in Minnesota. And that's where we go awry. And as you know, I'm running for Attorney General of Texas. Let me give you one example. And I'm not going to make it too much about my opponent. This is about stuff as a member of Congress. But my opponent, for example, had a piece of legislation last year as a state senator in which he had language saying that they wanted to make it easier for property rights to be developed for religious purposes. Now, maybe on paper, I think, oh, that's not bad. I want churches to be able to do that. In it was churches and all this stuff. It was backed by a lot of religious groups and property rights groups, but it had specific language about mosques and specific language that would allow something like Epic City in Plano. They're going to drive a truck through that. We are naively trying to move legislation that will help do that. So what did my opponent do? He changed the intent of the bill, erased it, hid it, and the bill still existed with the language in it. And now a bunch of people like the Catholic, bishops are coming together and saying, oh, that bill was great, and a bunch of religious groups. And I'm saying, guys, stop. You cannot. We are going to be naive and we're going to kill ourselves because we're going to put legislation forward trying to advance. Oh, we're going to have prayer in schools and 10 Commandments. I'm telling you, the Muslims, the people professing Islam as a political ideology, they know how to take our country over. That's how. They will use our laws to destroy us from within. We might win a kinetic war in Iran, but we're going to lose the war at home if we are allowing them to use our own First Amendment tools in our society to destroy our Christian nation while they advance political Islam.
What is political Islam? Can you describe that red-green partnership?
Yeah, I mean, and by the way, I want to be careful, but sometimes we'll say radical Islam, political Islam. I think Islam generally is, in fact, a political ideology. And I think it is rooted in enormous, I want to say, its founding is questionable. I'll put it to you that way. And we can have a whole theological debate, but I'll take us down that rabbit trail. But Islam is, by definition, a political ideology. It is advancing a goal of having a takeover, effectively, of the world, of all societies being Islamic. And you'll see that in the imams' teachings in Texas, right? We have 330 mosques in Texas. People think, oh, Texas doesn't have it. No, we have 330 mosques and more getting built there than any other state in the union every year. And the imams, when you go look at what they're talking and they're teaching about how to have babies, have children, bring more people here, and to then take over the local school boards, take over the local county elections, take over all of the local mayors races. So now they're in the next stage, right? Phase 1 was come here. Phase 2 was have families and start populating. Phase 3 is, okay, now let's take over local government. And then they jump. And it's like Mamdani, it's like Dearborn, it's like Minneapolis. You didn't get Ilhan Omar because she's crazy. You got Ilhan Omar because there's a population there that wants Ilhan Omar, right? And so that's coming to Texas. You're going to have an Islamist as a congresswoman or man like Ilhan Omar in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex sometime soon. And that's unless we do something about it. But it is driven by a political goal of conquering through whatever means. There's violence, and then there's this political action. But there is a concerted effort. Go read the Muslim Brotherhood memo from 1991. And I've posted about it, and I'm sure you've seen it. But everyone watching this, read it. It's specific. They talk about waging jihad against the West, but that is a political statement. They're saying you're effectively creating jihad against the West by going in and populating and taking over the political operations of these communities.
You said unless something's done about it, what must be done about it, Congressman?
Well, it's a multi-layered approach. I'm trying as a member of Congress to prevent people from coming to this country anymore that have this ideology that want to destroy the West. Number two, I think we need to remove people who have the ideology of wanting to destroy the West. Number three, we have to recognize that it's a political ideology from a legal standpoint, and that therefore how we treat it from a First Amendment and religious liberty standpoint is different, because it is in fact a political ideology, and we need to embrace and recognize that reality. But until you do that, and then do all the, by the way, Governor Abbott's doing a lot of great work shutting down these two Sharia courts that were trying to be operated in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. He's saying that we can't use the school vouchers for Islamist schools because because of what they teach and that are in violation of our laws and teaching Sharia and undermining the West. He's correct to do that. We have to win those battles in court, but we need an offensive approach, pass more laws, a defensive approach, stop people from coming here, removing people, and to defend our laws and our society. But we have to recognize those things, and that's the only way you can win it. And by the way, I've said this before, you cannot win a war if you do not acknowledge that it exists. A war is being waged against us. And you said the Red-Green Alliance, and I didn't go there a minute ago. The Marxists and the Islamists, there's nothing new about this. It is organized, and it is happening around the world. The same entity, well, not the same, a lot of the entities that are involved with, say, Soros-funded, DAs and prosecutors, putting criminals on the streets and advancing radical leftism and Marxism in our communities in Dallas and Houston and cities, a lot of those are overlapping concentric circles with the same organizations that have wide open borders or that are advancing Islam. And we've got to go track all that money down. As Attorney General, one of the first things I'm going to do is go look at the books of these NGOs and nonprofits and say, who are you affiliated with? Are you affiliated with CARE? Are you affiliated with Antifa? Are you engaged in terrorist activities? Shut them down. Turn off their money. Cut the head of the snake off. Pull their charter. Like, if we don't get aggressive in defending our society and our community, we will lose it. They're waging war against us, and we're just acting like, oh, Chip, isn't it great? First Amendment, you can come here and think and believe whatever you want to believe. Well, yeah, you can believe what you want to believe, and you can practice your faith in your home. But when your mission is to undermine my society and endanger my community and try to put your values on top of mine, that's a competing, conflicting civilization, and we have to win. You can't just say, well, let's try to figure it out. No, there's no figuring it out. We're going to stand up. We're going to proclaim the gospel of Christ. We're going to defend Western civilization. We're going to defend our values. We're going to defend capitalism, defend freedom, defend the rule of law. And we're going to say, you want that worldview, go someplace else, but we're not going to have it here.
Exceedingly based. Well done, Congressman. I just want to pop up one more time the Mandami Act. Here we go, written up in Breitbart today. Chip Roy to introduce Mandami Act targeting communists, Marxists, socialists, and Islamists. And he already has Supreme Court rulings on the record backing all of this up. Maybe just a takeaway question as we're concluding here. Should Islamists be allowed to immigrate into America? Should that be one of those, just like it says in against communism, just one of those antithetical political ideologies?
No. They should not be allowed to emigrate to the United States. And in fact, they should be removed from the United States. And I've got two different bills that would attempt to try to do that. The Mamdani Act lays that out, as well as a bill I introduced last summer that would increase vetting of individuals to determine the extent to which they've embraced Sharia law and how that's antithetical to and in opposition to our Western way of life and Western civilization, our laws and our values. So I know this is going to be hard for people to digest. They're going to say, well, I've got friends who are Muslim and I the First Amendment. I get it. I understand it's difficult. And we need to have this conversation, and we need to recognize that there is a large number of individuals who want to destroy our civilization, our way of life. And that means making some tough decisions. And look, I honestly don't think it's that tough to say that a society that would bring 5 million people into the United States from majority Muslim countries since 9/11. So we get attacked, 3,000 Americans get killed. Our Pentagon, I was just over at Arlington National Cemetery this morning, which, by the way, pause. When you go to Washington, D.C., the number one spot you should go is Arlington National Cemetery, and it's not even close. Don't go to the Capitol. Don't go to the archives. Don't go to the Supreme Court, the White House tour. Go to Arlington National Cemetery and spend time there. Every time I go, I'm renewed with a spirit of defending this great country, and I'm filled with a spirit of hope and belief for all of those great people that are represented by all of those monuments, as my friend Ron DeSantis calls them. They're not tombstones. They are monuments to freedom. They are monuments to this great country. And I want to stand up and defend this country. Those people didn't fight and die and bleed so that we could turn our country over to Islamists who are not only wanting to disrupt and destroy our civilization, they want to undermine the spread of the gospel, which is the central hope for mankind. And so we have an obligation to defend our way of life, and we should do it.
Chip Roy, ladies and gentlemen, follow him. He's got over 500,000 subscribers here. He's running for the Attorney General of Texas. He has our full endorsement, and it's why we want him to be able to deliver his message to as wide of an audience as he can possibly reach. And the runoff is going to be in end of May. Is that correct? So
May 26th. Early voting starts on May 18th. And get out and vote. ChipRoy.com. Need the help, need the support. We're going to do this. My opponent's trying to buy the election. We're going to win it from the people and the grassroots and fighting for the people that I represent. Thanks, Benny. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Congressman. Thank you.
God bless.
Cooking. Just on fire. Just absolutely cooking. There's nothing to be added there. Sometimes you do these interviews and you're like, oh, I got to come up with like the follow-up question in order to like really get the blood flowing, in order to get the energy going. With Chip Roy, it's just like, it's like Tesla self-driving. You just like, he's just ready to go. He's cooked. What a critical and important point. Like if you go to London and Paris and Berlin right now, you're not going to those cities. Your grandparents, maybe your parents, if you're a millennial like me, your parents went there and they saw Germans and French people and English people when they went to those cities. If you go there today, you'll see people from Morocco and people from Nigeria. If you go to Rome, you'll see people from Chad and Somalia. You won't see Romans. You won't see Italians. And what is that? Other than erasure, and other than the Great Replacement. Isn't it sad that you go to Tokyo and there are entire no-go zone neighborhoods where you don't see any Japanese people? Why? Why would we do this? Why would we do this to ourselves? It makes no sense. Doesn't make any sense in reverse either, right? If you wanted to go to Morocco or to Chad, like, wouldn't it be fundamentally different if the entire nation was filled with Chinese people? That'd be strange. Wouldn't make any sense if you went to Somalia, I guess, and it was only Chinese people there. It doesn't make sense because the location, a land, a people, isn't the geography. It is, in fact, the people. And so when you bring the people of Somalia to Rome, Berlin, Paris, or London, you're bringing Somalia there. You're not making new Germans or Parisians, French people. You're simply exporting Somalia to your once French city. Destroys it. And it's gone forever once it's gone. And so it's something that you should really protect yourself against. You should protect yourself against scammers, ladies and gentlemen. Rumble Wallet is one of the ways that you can do that if you're in the crypto space. Of course, tens of millions of people are. Rumble Wallet is a wonderful way to make sure that you invested in crypto, Bitcoins, or stablecoin, or even gold-backed stablecoins, have a secure deposit and a very easy way to buy, sell, and manage your cryptocurrencies all in one place. The app is very straightforward. Rumble Wallet is unique. You can tip your favorite creators. You can get started today. You can download the Rumble Wallet app, just a few steps, connect it to your account, and you can rock and roll, get going. Click the link in the description or search Rumble Wallet in the App Store. Download Rumble Wallet today. Move your assets to where they belong, in your hands and in your control. Rumble Wallet is a technology provider, not a custodial service. Wallet.rumble.com. Terms at wallet.rumble.com. Okay. I guess we made some news yesterday on this with Ken Paxton. ActBlue employee pleads fifth over 100 times during House depositions. Whew. Current and former employees of the Democrat fundraising machine, ActBlue, reportedly pleaded the fifth more than 100 times, testifying before several House committees. In a press release that revealed that the House Judiciary Committee, Administration Committee, and Oversight Committee and Reform Committee, titled Fraud in ActBlue, Illicit Foreign Donations and Cover-Up, Mass Resignations and Firings in ActBlue's legal compliance team. The press release revealed that the 5 current and former employees of ActBlue who appeared for depositions all invoked the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Never a great look. You are innocent until proven guilty. This is something that we must prove with ActBlue. We talked about it with the Attorney General of Texas yesterday, soon to be Senator of Texas, hopefully. The next Attorney General, Chip Roy, was just on the program. But will our federal government and our DOJ ever look into this? You best damn well believe if the Republican donation vehicles were behaving like this, everybody would be in shackles and in Guantanamo Bay at this point. Barack Obama, what did he do to Dinesh D'Souza? Dinesh D'Souza, if I'm understanding this correctly, Dinesh D'Souza got some of his friends to donate to his buddy's campaign. But they said that because Dinesh D'Souza asked him to donate, that was a violation of the campaign law. That the violation of campaign law, Dinesh D'Souza goes straight to jail, right? This guy that makes all the documentaries about Barack Obama and Kenya and birth certificate and everything. But they took that incident and they said, oh, going to prison. And that's exactly what they did. Trump freed Dinesh D'Souza from prison. But man, it would be really nice to have them buckle up here. Also, speaking of buckling up, Virginia votes today on get me the maps, please. Virginia votes today on the redistricting of their state, which is a great evil. It's been sent in the breaking chat. Please, ALX, forward the maps right away. This is something that is a crime against humanity. You can see what these maps would do. It would take a evenly split red state, and Virginia is very much a purple state at heart. It would take an evenly split, fairly drawn map, and then if you would zoom in, please, on the proposed districts. They won't even hang up maps in the voting locations of what it would look like because it is so repulsively drawn. Look at these. So it's taking just the nucleus right there where the CIA is and where the deep state is located right there in Northern Virginia, where Alexandria and Crystal City and all these far left-wing government succubus parasitic neighborhoods are. And it takes every single district in the state and it zooms up there and it carves off like a big neighborhood chunk. And what is this? Barack Obama constantly banging on about representation and about disenfranchisement. All this is disenfranchising red counties. You must vote against this if you're in Virginia. All of this is the simple and total disenfranchisement of the country, of the working class, of people who choose to live not outside of these rat-infested corridors. And they do the exact same thing in Chicago. This would now become the single most aggressive cheating map in all of America. And it would disenfranchise and erode the democracy for millions and millions of Americans. This party is constantly banging on about protecting democracy, and this is what they're planning on doing. And they'll do the same to your state. They'll do the same to every single state that they can seize power and control over. It is a bloody power grab. It is totally incomplete. It should be, these kind of things should be illegal. It's so messy. Nobody can even look at how fair the top map is. Look at how the top map. Look at what the map is currently. Like how there's a little teeny blue district up there at the top that has a lot of people living in it because they want to be in proximity to their federal jobs. And then the proposed map, how every single district goes up and carves off a giant piece of that in order to disperse those concentrated Democrat votes and disperse them throughout the state and to bleed out these Republicans. I mean, Republicans need to immediately react to this. I mean, you want to play this game, you can. There's a lot more population in red states than blue states, and Republicans should get their act together, especially here in Florida, if they're going to be doing this. Florida could get rid of, I think, every Democrat district quite easily if they simply acted. Indiana could have done it, but they cucked out. It's an embarrassment. This is something that is happening today. This vote is happening today, so just deeply encourage those listeners and viewers in Virginia to vote against this. There's a question on the ballot. Look at how they rig the ballot as well. It's a question on the ballot. You rig the question. If you really want to rig the outcome, you rig the question. Question: should the Constitution of Virginia be amended to allow the General Assembly to temporarily adopt a new congressional district to restore fairness in the upcoming elections while ensuring Virginia's standard of redistricting process resumes its future redistricting after the 2030 census? Look at that. Well, I mean, are you voting against fairness? Look, isn't that amazing? To restore fairness, you rigged the question. How did this pass? How are Republicans so weak? How did this pass legal remedy? You know, there's legal questions of how you phrase the ballot. So are you voting against restoring fairness? Yeah, you don't. Oh, you hate fairness? Why don't you add puppies to it? You little puppies licking their noses with bows on their heads? Why don't you add that? Man, it is sick. It's a crooked game. It's a sick game, man. Glad I go home to my family and kids, and I can sort of like wash my hands of this stuff. Whew, baby. Wash your hands of a crooked and rigged system. So much of the fiat currency is in fact crooked and rigged. Advantage Gold is not. Advantage Gold is our friend and our longtime friend and partner of this show. They are the ones who've set forth a gold strategy for me, and they can do so for you as well. If you have a 401k, IRA, or a retirement account, you have a choice. Sit back and watch all the winning happen, or take control of the growth that is yours with Advantage Gold, the number one rated precious metals company in America. Text Advantage Gold. Text Benny to 85545 right now. That's BENNY to 85545 right now. Don't wait while the gold rally keeps breaking records. Text Benny to 85545 right now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's the show for today. We will be doing a very, very short and quick show tomorrow. We've been able to figure out our travel. We will be going to Waco, Texas tomorrow. Turning Point USA event with Tom Holman. Very excited about that. So we'll also be live in the evening there, and we will carry with us our verse of the day from Psalms 37:7. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Do not fret when people succeed in their ways, when they carry out wicked schemes. A lot of wicked schemes going on right now in the political space. We just talked about one of them in Virginia. Don't fret, though. Remember, keep your eyes locked on the Lord. You can walk on water if you do that, if you have faith. You keep your eyes locked, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, it's something that we wish to engage in on this program. That's why we try and stay positive. And so march with us on to victory. It's your boy, Benny. See ya.
C4, your move. Bah, you sunk my battleship. What the heck is that? Darth Chewie.
B-17.
Where the truth gon' be, faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade, cutting through the lies. Watch the truth cascade with the warrior's heart. this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny shows a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade. Cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny shows a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light.